Can you believe this? Here we are, huh? I can't even believe we're doing this, let alone I can't believe that it's been a year. But nevertheless, here we are. I can't tell you how much your presence here today means to me. I have, in some ways, looked forward to this day. In many ways, I've dreaded this day. But knowing that you would be here today with me has made all the difference. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I feel a little helpless in what I'm going to attempt to say next because words just seem extremely inadequate. But your love and concern for Alyssa, Cassidy, and me this past year has just been a healing ointment for our wounded hearts. I've not always been able to say thank you in the way that I have wanted to, but your acts of love has meant so much. And they have ultimately helped us rebuild our lives. And for that, I will forever be grateful. So thank you. Thank you so much. One of the things I have come to realize about major events that take place in our lives is that we as human beings have this somewhat insatiable need to relive them and tell them to other people. When someone has a baby, they want to tell us how they got to the hospital and what the interaction was like in the labor and delivery room and, what it was like when the baby got here. And sometimes when they're telling us the story, we're really hoping they don't give us too many details, right? But, we want to hear that and they want to tell us. When somebody gets that dream vacation or they get to go overseas, we want to know, what did they see? What did they eat? What it was like? And they want to share those experiences with us and we want to hear. We want to hear it. It's part of what makes us human. It's part of what draws us together. It's how we work. It's how we form relationships. It's just part of who we are. I found that after March 8th, people would want to tell me how they found out, where they were when they heard that Fred had been murdered. I just connected just a few weeks ago when I was in Dallas with some former church members, and that was one of the things they had to tell me was where they were and how they found out that Fred had been killed. Even people who I didn't know before March 8th would tell me where they were, what they were doing, and how they found out that a pastor in Maryville, Illinois, was gunned down while preaching one day. Today I'm going to share with you not some great theological wisdom. I would have left that to Fred. But I'm going to share with you some, not all, of my story on March 8th. I'm just going to open up my heart and just allow you to see some of the cracks and some of the crevices that are there. You obviously knew where you were on March 8th, and you probably know where a lot of other people were on March 8th, what they were doing when they received those faithful words that Fred had been killed. And in just a few minutes, you're going to know my story. But did you ever wonder, where was God on March 8th? Where was he? So much of what I tell you about today still very much seems like a dream. It's just hard for me sometimes to even hear my words, the words come out of my mouth that Fred was killed. It's strange, but just a few months before March 8th, I was driving by a cemetery located very closely to my home. And what caught my attention was one of the green canvas tents was being set up for a burial. And I thought to myself, you know what? How sad. Somebody's going to be burying a loved one today. And it caused me to stop and think about my husband, my kids, and my life. And I just thought how happy I was. My life was not perfect, but I was happy. And I just felt this safety and this security just nestled in the arms of God. And I don't think that with the exception of when I was first getting married, that I was looking towards the future with more anticipation and expectation. And little did I know that in just 2 short months, it was going to be me sitting underneath that green canvas tent in that same exact cemetery, burying my husband. March 8th really started off just like any other normal Sunday for us. Now, it was time change Sunday, so when that alarm clock went off, it seemed a little bit earlier than normal, but it was pretty much like a normal Sunday for us. Fred got up when the alarm clock went off, and he went off to his study to finish up a sermon series called Come On, Get Happy. Now, as a pastor's wife, it was my very important job to make sure that when the alarm clock went off, that he actually got up. Now, no one had ever told me that this was my job. It was never in a formal job description. I never received a paycheck nor a thank you card for this. But whenever that alarm clock went off, I had to make sure that he got up, which he did. And I usually would go back to sleep because I didn't come to the first service. And so, I usually went back to sleep. But this Sunday I didn't. I tossed and I turned and I rolled around. And I thought, what, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to go and I'm going to get up and I'm going to exercise. Now, I've never exercised on a Sunday morning in my entire life. But I thought, what, this Sunday I'm going to. So I got up and I put my workout clothes on and I went down the hall. I caught a quick glimpse of Fred. And as I turned to go down the steps, I heard our oldest daughter, Alyssa, up in her room. And I thought, what is she doing up? So I went in, and there she was. She was up, dressed, awake, and perky. And I was like, Alyssa, what are you doing? And she's like, Mom, I'm going to go with Dad today to the early service, and I'm going to help out in the childcare. And I was like, a little stunned. And I said, really? And she said, yes. And so I said, you know what? I almost said no, actually, because she had just gotten over pneumonia, and I was still really concerned about her getting adequate rest. But I thought, you know what? She seems like she's doing okay. And I said, you know what? You can go. And I'm so happy I did, because she got some really special time with her dad that day that she wouldn't have normally. And that time has become so precious to us. So I went downstairs, started working out. A little bit later, they hollered down, we're leaving. I hollered up, I'll see you later, and off they went. Well, it wasn't too much longer that my daughter Cassidy and we headed off to church. And as we came down the main road here and we descended over the hill, we saw fire trucks and police cars and flashing lights everywhere. And I told Cassidy, I said, oh no, I think there must have been a major car accident at the entrance to the church. And I was just about getting ready to say to her, we need to pray. And an ambulance goes whizzing by us. Well, as we were there in this line of traffic, something caught my attention as really strange. I noticed that on the shoulders of the road that there were cars pulled over, and the cars were full of church members. It was you guys, people I recognized. And I thought to myself, this is really strange, because if the main entrance is blocked by a car accident, surely they would let people, get off the road and go into the side entrances. So I really couldn't figure that out. And I was sitting there looking at everybody, but I noticed that in this line of traffic that we were in, that we were inching forward, and there was a young fireman who was saying something to each car. So I thought, I'm just going to stay put here for a second, and maybe he'll tell us what's going on. So as we went further, and we got up to him, he said, ma'am, there's been an incident at the church, and I need you to pull over. And he pointed now to the side road of Lakeview Acres. Well, I didn't like the sound of that. And I said, excuse me, but my husband's the pastor. Is everything okay? He said, ma'am, I need you to pull over. So I turned my car on Lakeview Acres, and as soon as I did that, my cell phone went off. And I picked it up and answered it, and it was a friend who lived in a completely different part of the state. And she said, Cindy, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. I said, what are you talking about? There was a long pause. And she just started praying for me, asking God to give me peace and a comfort. I had no idea what she was talking about. Completely bewildered. As she's praying for me, another phone call comes in from a church member. I answered it. He said, Cindy, what's going on? I said, I have no idea. This time I parked my car, I hung up on both of them, and I get out. I look at the car who's pulling up behind me, and I holler back, and I said, what's going on? And that person said nothing, but started walking towards my car. And I look to the right, the front of my car, and two gentlemen are coming towards me. As they get closer, the woman says to the gentleman, she doesn't know. This time my heart starts to take off, and I can get a clear view of the side of the church, and I see that there are a lot of police cars, a lot of fire trucks, and I know something's gone really wrong, that we're not talking about a car accident any longer. I looked at them as they came close, and I said, what's going on? What happened?